The Toronto Raptors got a massive win against the Cleveland Cavaliers last night, so we'll break down that game in this video as well. Some interesting storylines have popped up following the action, as Donovan Mitchell came out in his post-game, was very salty with how the Toronto Raptors were playing, so we'll discuss his comments, as well as Chris Boucher getting 0 minutes, benched in the game against the Cleveland Cavaliers. So we'll discuss those, as well as an interesting Bleacher Report article in this video. So lots of stuff to dive into. Let's jump straight into the action. So the first thing we're taking a look at is a Raptors-Cavs game recap, and this game was... if the New York Knicks game was a morale booster, this one is another one to just send Raptors fans hype back into the season, re-energize the team, because the Cleveland Cavaliers, who are a very solid squad, I mean, they're 22-12 on the season, they're the upper echelon of the Eastern Conference, and the Toronto Raptors came out and looked like the team they should have been this entire year, and they have really since the New York Knicks game, and I wish... I said in the sort of pregame, the video I did before the Cleveland Cavaliers game, I wish I booked it, I locked it in, just like I did in the New York Knicks game, because I was predicting, right? I locked it in. I said that the Toronto Raptors are going to end their losing streak against New York, and things were looking positive. The energy was turned. I wasn't fully committed. I didn't make the full-out commitment, the full-out prediction against the Cavs, but you guys should have, you guys could have, and you could have made some money off it as well. If you sign up for the Coolbet app using the link down below, right, you can bet on any Toronto Raptors game, NBA game this season, and the odds for the Toronto Raptors have looked really nice as of late, so definitely check out the Coolbet app. They're regulated all across Canada, so it's safe to bet, and, it makes the game more exciting. It helps out the channel as well, and you can get custom futures, custom odds if you do sign up and let myself or Goody know, and you can get some insights in terms of what bets are actually happening on the application. So, Toronto Raptors, they're a team that should be betting on themselves right now, because they look like the team we expected them to be coming into the season. The team that we saw earlier in the year. I mean, you look at the box score tonight. We were discussing how Pascal Siakam needed some help because he's been a superstar all season and did play at that level last night. 26 points, 9 assists, 7 rebounds, 2 steals, 9 and 22 from the field was just remarkable once again. We don't have to give all the praise to Pascal Siakam because we do every single night. He's been by far our best player. He's an elite playmaker this season. He's scoring at will. He's playing solid defense. Shout out to Pascal Siakam. Definitely deserves all the credit in the world, but he got some help last night, which was nice to see. As specifically OG Anunoby, 10 of 16 from the field, 26 points, 9 rebounds, 2 assists, 2 steals, and OG Anunoby is a dude that defensively, same with Pascal, has brought it all season. But the offense, well, it hasn't been inconsistent, I'd say, because the three-point shot has certainly been inconsistent, but OG's offensive firepower, he's playing within his flow of the offense, catching it, making elite drives, and is scoring within the paint really well, but the three-point shot has kind of come and gone. But last night, this man was absolutely cooking. He was absolutely on fire against the Cleveland Cavaliers, right? If you look at the stats in this one, OG Anunoby, as I said, the 26 points, but 6 of 9 from the three-point line, and that was a huge plus for this Raptors team. When three-point shots are going down for the Toronto Raptors, we are a totally different looking squad, because it opens up the lane for Pascal Siakam, right? You can't just immediately help off of all of our guys, and if they do, the open threes are going to go down. Opens driving lanes for Scotty Barnes, who wants to get to the basket, and tonight, he's certainly getting an award in this one. The Scotty Barnes award is without a doubt being delivered to none other than Scotty Barnes in this game. It's going to the guy that was looking smoothest in the lane, getting buckets inside the paint, because with that open floor spacing, which we'll discuss, right, Fred VanVleet and OG knocking down threes, Scotty Barnes able to get to the rim, 10 of 16 from the field, 25 points, 10 rebounds, 4 assists, 2 steals, and Scotty Barnes is, when he has bad stat lines like he did against the New York Knicks, it's always getting posted on the front page of news clippings and Reddit posts and Twitter. He gets bashed on. People talk about Franz Wagner is better than him, which is madness, but when he has games like this, which he's had throughout the course of the season, they kind of get ignored. They kind of get overlooked because people are like, oh, he's the rookie of the year. He's supposed to be putting 25 points a night. And no, that's not the case. That's not something that, rookies or second-year players, they usually hit that sophomore slump. And Scotty Barnes has still had a really, really solid season. So shout out to Scotty Barnes, man, having a strong performance after getting benched, not playing a lot of the second half against the New York Knicks. Came out motivating this one, and what I was really encouraged by is defensively, I thought he looked a little bit more engaged than he has been this season, because offensively, I think I trust Scotty Barnes to sort of develop it, this elite playmaking with his elite finishing. He's going to be a strong offensive player, but we saw him play for a lot of stretches last year, really solid defense, but this year has been a lot less consistent on that end of the floor, and tonight, when he's locked in and he's engaged, I like the defensive energy he brought, so shout out Scotty Barnes on that front. But to keep on the narrative of three-point shooting, OG went 6-9. Fred VanVleet went 5-10 from the 3-point line, 18 points, 4 assists, 8 rebounds out there, hustling like a madman, and 5-12. And this is exactly the game that we'd ideally like to see from Fred VanVleet, a guy that's not asked to do a whole bunch out there, shoot 20 times a night, where he had 12 shots, 12 pretty efficient looks, and when he's not asked to do all that, the threes are probably going to go in because, while he certainly hasn't been super consistent this season, while Fred VanVleet isn't a guy that has been setting the world on fire with his field goal percentages, and they weren't amazing, at least from the field last night, but 5-10 from the 3-point line is amazing. But Fred VanVleet, when he's sort of asked to be more of a spot-up shooter, less of, I'm going to create the entire offense for this Raptor squad, that's when the 3-point shots are going to go down at a more efficient clip. So last night, hitting 5-10 from the 3-point line is just amazing, exactly what the Toronto Raptors needed. So, hopefully if we can get consistent performances from other guys on the roster, Fred VanVleet can fit more into that role that Nick Nurse was sort of talking about at the start of the year. And honestly, it wasn't just Fred VanVleet, as we had other guys as well knocking down some threes. I mean, Starboy Gary Trent Jr. only played 20 minutes in this game, right? Didn't have an insane night. And, we'll talk about his minutes as well, and when we get to Chris Boucher. But off the bench was solid. Just didn't do anything crazy, but didn't do anything poor. But, one guy that I do want to give credit to, I do want to give a shout out to, is none other than Chatty Thaddeus Young, who, again, we'll talk more about the Chris Boucher part, but he's just solid for this team. He's hustling. He's an energy dude. No blocks or steals, surprisingly, last night, but playing elite defense. 16 minutes of action is just a perfect complementary role player that the Toronto Raptors need. But the guy off the bench that has won over a lot of hearts in recent weeks and recent days is Malachi Flynn, who 23 minutes of action, got 9 points, hit 3 really, really clean threes, 3 assists, 3 rebounds, got a steal out there. And regardless of the offense, because while he wasn't shooting that great in his limited minutes when he'd get his opportunities, especially last year and early this season, we kind of trust him. Malachi Flynn is a good 3-point shooter, right? He's elite on that front. But, I think he's up to close to 50% from the 3-point line. His percentages are remarkably high, and that's due to him actually getting some consistent run. And I was saying to Nick Nurse, whether it's Delano Banter or Malachi Flynn, don't be playing the guys like 7 minutes a night and expect them to really burst onto the scene. With especially guards that are used to having the ball in their hands and stuff, they need a proper amount of run in order to get their games going, to get their opportunity, get in the flow and the swing of things. And Flynn has finally given a little bit extra leash to make mistakes, to have a couple missed shots, and have the confidence that, okay, if I make a single mistake, I'm not going to get subbed out immediately. And he's playing really, really well. So there's a lot of credit there. And defensively, he's not a pylon like we've seen him be occasionally throughout seasons. I mean, he had like a game-winning block against the New York Knicks. Again, held his own against the Donovan Mitchells, whoever he was switched on, the Cleveland Cavaliers, Garland, everyone that was on a defensive string last night. I think I even overglossed over OG Anunoby's defense. Remarkable, but we'll talk about him with the Donovan Mitchell saltiness. So overall, great performance of the Toronto Raptors. Nice, needed W, right? Just nice win. I wish I could have reacted to it last night, but Tibbs Eve celebrations. Also, Merry Christmas to everyone that's celebrating out there. Had a Tibbs Eve last night and Christmas Eve tonight. But let's swing into the next segment. The next thing we're taking a look at is Donovan Mitchell salty after the Toronto Raptors game. Now, Donovan Mitchell, he hasn't fared well against the Toronto Raptors this season, as the Raptors have his number, and that a large part of that is due to OG Anunoby being a clamp god out there on the defensive end. But last night, not a strong performance for really anyone on the Cleveland Cavaliers. No efficient nights. Jared Allen, I guess you could say, but Donovan Mitchell, 4 of 16 from the field, 3 of 12 from the 3-point line, 12 points, only 4 assists, got a couple steals out there, but the Raptors had the Cleveland Cavaliers on lock, and Donovan Mitchell has not fared well as of late. I mean, his last 2 games against the Toronto Raptors, he's averaging 10 points, 26% from the field, 24% from behind the 3-point line, and Mitchell in 10 games against everybody else over that stretch, 31 points per game, 53% from the field, and 46% from the 3-point line. So the Toronto Raptors currently have Donovan Mitchell's number, and he wasn't happy about how the whistle was going for him last game, and basically had this to say, saying that Donovan Mitchell and the Toronto Raptors, when you foul the whole game, and they're really good at it, they can foul the whole game. The refs aren't going to call it on each possession, so you got to give them credit. They're physical. They kicked our ass. So that's that's what Donovan Mitchell is saying about this game. But complaining about foul calls against the Toronto Raptors, interesting proclamation there. As the Cleveland Cavaliers last night had 30 free throws. They had 30 free throws in this game. The Toronto Raptors had 18. So the whistle was definitely going in favor of the Cleveland Cavaliers. Yes, the Toronto Raptors are aggressive and all that stuff, but Jared Allen, Evan Mobley, these guys, they're not perfect down there in the lane. I know they're long and lanky, but I also see the hand check into the guards, Donovan Mitchell and these dudes. I mean, Donovan Mitchell had 3 steals, but he's there's fouls going on both sides, and they had significantly more, 12 more free throws than the Raptors last night. So they only shot 60%, so maybe they should make more. They forget about all the 3 free throw points when you're selling free throws. But Donovan Mitchell, quit being salty against the Toronto Raptors. We have your number. Sucks to suck, Cleveland Cavaliers fans, but going back to the little rivalry, I always like beating Cleveland, so it's fun stuff there. But even though I do like Donovan Mitchell as a player, but going up against the Raptors, sucks to suck. We're clamping you down. But the next thing we're discussing in this video is Chris Boucher getting 0 minutes versus Cleveland. And this one is fairly interesting because Boucher has been a guy that this season hasn't really hasn't had the same sort of draw. He got a contract this summer. He hasn't been hitting that hard off the bench as we were hoping. He's had some solid games. I mean, he's still putting up decent stats, 11 points, 6 rebounds, close to a block a game, a steal per game, but he's dealt with some injuries. But the area that's really killing Chris Boucher and something that has been an issue for this Raptor squad is the three-point shooting. The Toronto Raptors just have not been able to knock down threes, and Chris Boucher has been a big part of it. He's shooting 27% from the three-point line, and while he's a dog, while he hustles on defense, while he's getting rebounds, and while I would not want him to be benched for a consistent basis on this team, until that jump shot comes out, his value is significantly less than what it would have been last season, or especially the year prior, where he looked really good for the Toronto Raptors during that tanking year. So I don't know why he was specifically benched. I haven't, I looked at Twitter. People are just as confused as a lot of Raptors fans because he didn't look as bad. He didn't look bad enough to be benched on this Raptors team, right? He doesn't seem like a player that, even though he's not having the greatest year shooting, he gets a lot of just hustle plays. He's a solid shot blocker, rim protector, sort of at that 4 position, and finishes a lot of buckets around the rim. He sort of changes the energy off the bench for the Toronto Raptors, but there's a guy that's been doing it for the Raptors right now, and probably, while the box score doesn't show it's more elite, just more savvy, right? Thaddeus Young is a little bit of a better positional defender than Chris Boucher, and he's been hitting his shots, hitting his middies. He's been hitting some threes recently as well. So I don't know. Is Thaddeus Young going to steal all Chris Boucher's minutes? That's a question to behold. I think there's minutes to go around. I mean, if you look at the Toronto Raptors minutes distribution, Pascal Siakam at 42 minutes. Juancho Hernangomez is getting 24 at the center spot, which I think Boucher and Thaddeus Young are more suited to get some run at the center position. But OG playing close to 40, Scotty playing close to 40, Fred VanVleet playing close to 40. Right? There's minutes to be had for Chris Boucher right now. We know he's good. We know he's a solid player, but Nick Nurse is also trying to get us out of a hole, trying to dig us out of some tough position right now, so I get it. But if he's going to send Chris Boucher to the Nick Nursery, that's going to be tough. We just extracted Malachi Flynn, send Chris Boucher back down. I don't think it's the right play long-term for this Raptors team. And, we have Precious Achiuwa coming back soon. Right, the propaganda will be run on this team. I assume he's going to be the starting center with Gary Trent Jr. moved to the bench. It'll be interesting to see how those minutes are distributed in the front court. And I also want to address Gary Trent Jr. is only getting 20 minutes of action. Now, I've heard from some people talking that Gary Trent Jr. might want out. We've heard the reports saying that, the speculation, the rumors that Gary might want out of the season and stuff. And I've heard from some people that could potentially be the case as well. So, what does this mean for Gary Trent Jr. going forward? Will we have to sell on him in the trade deadline? Because Gary Trent Jr. himself, right, the star boy, we need shooting on this team, right? If we can get Gary Trent Jr. hitting threes at a high clip and playing elite defense, got 2 steals last night, right? That's a perfect complementary player right now we have, but he's a free agent this offseason. Who knows if he wants to stay on the team? So, I don't know. That's all interesting with the Toronto Raptors benching situation. So we'll see what happens on that front. But the final thing we're discussing, moving away from the Cavs Raptors game, is the Bleacher Report grades the Christian Koloko draft pick. And this one's fairly interesting. As for a second-round pick, I thought Christian Koloko looked like a steal for this team. Regardless of what the Raptors had planned for Koloko, he has to be exceeding expectations, as I agree. He was the summer's 33rd overall pick and logged the 15th most minutes in his draft class. He suited up for 30 of 31 Toronto Raptors games. 32. He didn't play last night any minutes either, and even made 17 starts. He supplied the group with paint protection, tallying 2.7 rejections in 36 minutes a night. However, there aren't many layers to his game. He should probably, as expected, still be picked up in the sport later than most. Still, you'd like to see more from him on the glass. Getting more rebounds would be key, and from close range. So, given solid ranking to the Christian Koloko draft pick. I think as a second rounder, as a guy that was had no expectations really coming to the season, a B- is kind of low. But what are your thoughts on Christian Koloko's game? What are your thoughts on the Raptors crushing the Cleveland Cavaliers last night? All of the storylines we discussed. You guys are the best at making this far. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Sign up for CoolBet. Helps us out big time. And Merry Christmas to all that are celebrating. So, with all that said, you guys are the best. I'm signing out. Cheers.